In today's weekend news roundup, 6-year-old girl confirmed dead following Sunday evening's boating accident. The body of Kristal Black has been found at sea after 3 days of searching. Permission to appeal, interim stay on proceedings granted in BVI same-sex marriage case. A record number of 32 recruits in 2021 recruitment class announced by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. Honorable Penn responds to comments on his readiness to be premier, and Honorable deCastro encouraged by an uncomfortable 4 months leading education sector. All this and so much more when 284 News Roundup returns.
Introducing a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons. I'm taking you outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda to Jos Van Dyke, not forgetting Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing. We are the movers and shakers of this generation. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Season 4 by yours truly, Ron Grant. Raising a generation of greatness. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on 284 Media.
The wait is over! CCT Fire is here! Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire, bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome everybody. It's Saturday, October 8th, 2022. I'm Ron Grant, coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. A happy Saturday to one and all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your weekly news roundup with the top stories of this past week. A 6-year-old girl succumbed to her injuries following Sunday evening's boat accident, which left several persons suffering serious injuries, and one female was missing at sea. This was confirmed by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, of course, on Monday morning. Police can confirm a boating accident off West End Sunday evening, which has left one missing and one dead, a 6-year-old girl, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force stated. Now, other reports of the incident stated that the now deceased child was visiting the territory on vacation. In addition, reports suggest that at least 3 other persons from the accident were presently nursing injuries at the Dr. D. Orlando Smith Hospital. And continuing on that same story, the body of Kristal Black was found following a 3-day search involving local and neighboring authorities of the U.S. Virgin Islands. This was confirmed in a statement by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force at around 2:29 p.m. on Tuesday. It said, and I quote, "Police can confirm that the body of the missing female was found close to where the boat sank between Little Tatch and Frenchman's Key. Reports confirmed that her child was rushed to the hospital on Sunday evening after being found at sea." The news came after the operations manager of the Virgin Islands Search and Rescue, Mr. Philip Aspinall, confirmed the discovery of the speedboat during an interview with 284 News early that same Tuesday morning. He said the vessel was found near the area of the accident between Frenchman's Key and Little Tatch, deep beneath the surface of the ocean.
We've discovered the wreckage, more or less the site of the accident from the witness reports. The boat, it's on the bottom in 100 plus feet of water, so it's very dark down there. The sun doesn't penetrate that far. So visibility is next to nothing. So the guys are having to do it very, very painstakingly. And obviously it's very deep, so that each individual diver can only spend about sort of 20 minutes down there before he has to come up and adjust again. Do you know what I mean? So we're rotating a lot of divers to keep people on the bottom all of the time. But visibility is the problem. It's just, it's so dark down there.
Father of Kristal Black, Mr. John Black, penned a very emotional message on his Facebook on Monday as he thanked all persons involved in the search party thus far. He said, and I quote, "Thanks for the tremendous support, everyone. I lacked nothing in the quest to find my daughter today. I'm comforted with the support. If I cry, it's from the love and support as well as what I'm going through. If she, Kristal, was the boss, she would want us to tough it out and cry later. Okay, bossy, daddy is in beast mode. The youngest to the oldest of your siblings are in beast mode," he further expressed. The owners, management, and staff of CCT, BVI Cable TV Limited, and 284 Media express our sincere condolences to the family of the late Kristal Black. Domestic violence has been on the rise in the BVI since 2016. This is according to recent data shared by Gender Affairs Coordinator Ms. Tara Sue Morgan in the Territory, who she said has consistently recorded over 100 reported cases annually, with the majority of victims being women.
It is happening out there. It is not a secret that it's here. It's happening. And like I said, based on the figures, it's increasing, the reported case. And if the reported cases are increasing, you can imagine, like you said, to each one that's reported, I'm sure there are 4 more out there that's not reported.
In the month of October, the BVI joins the international community in observance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As explained by Morgan, this is a period of increased focus on understanding the issue of domestic violence and how it can be addressed.
Because it's a small community and a lot of people are fearful that once one person knows, it's quite unlikely several people are going to know. And then, especially in this era of social media, where people can just catch a little tape, catch a little conversation. You can say something privately to your friend and next thing you know, it's on blast, right? And so people don't want domestic violence is known as the silent killer. Why? Because a lot of people, they're trying their best to protect their sanity.
Morgan explained that a key aspect of understanding the issue is knowing exactly what domestic violence is, and too often, persons tend to unknowingly limit the issue to only intimate partner violence.
So it does influence the way people live, especially the younger persons who are gullible, who are seeing things and they're trying to shape their identity. So they're looking for what's popular. So if this is what's popular, then it must be what's good, right? So if what's popular is that, okay, I need to be in charge and to prove that I'm a man and to prove that I am, the person in charge, or as a woman, I need to assert myself and stop acting as if I'm a victim of a man. Because there's the flip side. There's the flip side that you have women now who are at the stage where they're saying, I'm not taking this anymore. And they're going out there and they're putting it on social media as well. That, okay, I'm showing now that I can stand on my own 2 feet.
The Court of Appeal has halted proceedings and granted the BVI Christian Council permission to appeal a recent judgment in the Kenesha Forbes versus the Attorney General case. The appeal was granted by Justice Jared Ferrara. The judgment being appealed was made by Justice Adrian Jack on a request for adjournment filed by Attorney General Don Smith. Smith claimed that the adjournment was necessary because her chambers was facing several difficulties, including dealing with the aftermath of the arrest of former Premier in Miami and the publication of the report of the Commission of Inquiry, the implementation of framework made between the BVI and the British governments following the report of the Commission of Inquiry, and difficulty obtaining, she said, instructions from its client, the National Unity Government. In his judgment, Justice Jack weighed the considerations of the AG's claims. He argued that on March 10, 2022, the AG was able to indicate that the government had intended to oppose the claims against them, meaning that, and I quote, she obviously had sufficient instructions at that stage to serve her acknowledgement of service. Jack said that it is unclear to him what facts of the case would have changed since that point and what further instructions would be required by the AG in order to move forward. He noted that even the Cabinet's recent decision of the matter on August 22nd was merely a confirmation by the government of the aforementioned position determined back in March of 2021. On the issue of the pressures of work on the Attorney General's chambers at this time, Justice Jack said that despite being sympathetic to this, he believed that, and I quote, it is for the respondent to organize her resources to deal with cases to which she is a party. Notwithstanding the explanations provided for her decision to refuse the request for adjournment, Jack noted that the mere lateness of the application, which was filed just days before the matter was due to return to court on September 29th, was enough to justify a refusal. Unsatisfied with the judgment, the Christian Council of the Virgin Islands filed a certificate of urgency to have the Court of Appeal expedite a decision on its readiness and halt the proceedings until an appeal hearing can take place. In his judgment, Ferrara found that the Attorney General had, and I quote, a realistic prospect of success and therefore ought to be granted leave to appeal. An interim stay of proceedings suspending the appeal hearing and the determination of the application for adjournment was also granted. The case at hand surrounds whether or not the prohibition of the same-sex marriage is contrary to the Constitution of the British Virgin Islands. While discussions surrounding the territory's uncertain political future continue, the Honorable Marlin Penn says he, for one, has no interest in entertaining the rhetoric of his place in that matter. During a guest appearance on Tola Radio, Penn was urged to break his silence on recent statements made by talk show host Claude Skelton Klein in an edition of Honestly Speaking. Klein said that despite being a good representative, he did not believe Penn was quite ready to serve as premier of the BVI and that Penn had areas that needed to be strengthened before such could be considered. Klein expressed several views on the territory's political landscape, including stating that he believed that the BVI had already made up its mind about the leadership coming out of the National Democratic Party, of which Penn is a member. Seemingly taking a direct jab at Klein, Penn offered his response.
And I'm wary of those persons who come and say they're speaking on behalf of the public. I mean, all you have to do is check their own personal track record. You'll see,
shots fired.
And you'll see who they're speaking on behalf of.
Penn went on to say that he need not defend himself from the opinions of others, as his reputation spoke volumes on its own. He also shared a brief glimpse into his vision of how the territory should be led moving forward.
And at the end of the day, my record is going to speak for itself, Damien Heritage Public. Right. Wherever I've been, I've left where I was better than I was. I'm a man that is focused on empowerment of people, empowerment of my territory. I think we have assembling a group of young men and women who have the capacity to do this, to move this country forward. And I think the reality is that we have to focus on the people. We need a people-centric approach to leading this country.
Ultimately, however, Penn said that each person has the right to express their own democratic views, of course.
Live in a democracy, Damien.
Right.
And persons have a right to express their democratic view. And I will never try to infringe on anyone's democratic view.
Thank God for that.
On their perspective in terms of what they bring forward. But
Commissioner of Police Mark Collins sworn in 32 new recruits as part of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force latest cohort this week. Cohort 6 is made up of 14 constables and 18 auxiliaries, with an even number of males and females. Among the newest recruits is a second officer from the Philippines. After completing a 6-month basic training program, the new officers are expected to fill vacancies in the newly restarted Community Policing Division. This division is intended to forge greater or more lasting relationships between the public and the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. This boost in the number of officers will also provide more visibility on the streets and needed public assurance. Now, in the swearing-in ceremony this week, the commissioner reminded the new recruits that they represent the force and the profession 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. And I quote, "Before you take this oath, please remember that this career requires your full pledge and commitment, not just when you are working, but when you are off duty as well. The force's standards, performance, and conduct are high, and we expect you to meet them," the commissioner noted. Now, viewers, the new recruits began their first day of training this week, and we continue to wish them the very best. Closing out our weekly news roundup, Education Minister, the Honorable Cherie B. deCastro, has described her short time in this role as uncomfortable, but assured that this was a necessary condition required to make the time productive. She was speaking on a recent edition of the Government Information Services Public Eye program, where she explored the intended trajectory of the education sector under the territorial education theme, Full Steam Ahead.
I believe that one of the things we've said is that there's need for change. And so the last 4 months, if I could sum it up, it's been uncomfortable. But one of the quotes that I've lived by for a very long time is that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Right. And if you're comfortable, you're just existing. But if you're uncomfortable, you're living because you're challenging yourself. And I believe that we've realized that there's room for improvement in education. There's room for advancement. And there's a requirement on my end in terms of the government, and there's a requirement on, for instance, my educators. There's a requirement on parents. There's a requirement on the community.
Viewers, that is all the time we have. This has been your weekly news roundup covering the top stories of this past week. Of course, be sure to log into our website as well as all social media handles for the stories that you might have missed, as well as featured interviews. Reporting for 284 News, I'm Ron Grant. Have a beautiful rest of the day and weekend. Happy Saturday.